Hey everybody, in this video we are going to factor trinomials when a, the lead coefficient, is not 1. We're going to do two different videos. One video will be factoring by guess and check. Another video will be factoring by grouping. In this video we will do guess and check. This is not a regimented mathematical process. This is one that maybe if you don't really remember processes very well, that maybe you could remember how to do this by guess and check. Anytime you factor a trinomial, the first thing you need to look for is a greatest common factor that you can pull out. And in the first one we're going to do together, we can. Okay, so in this case, all three of these terms are divisible by 3. So I'm going to factor out a 3. And that leaves me with 5n squared minus 9n minus 2. Okay, so when I factor this, I know it's going to look like this. 3 times a binomial times another binomial. Okay, now, this 5n squared, I need these first two terms to multiply to 5n squared. And the only way to make that happen is 5n times n. So what we're doing right now is reverse of the FOIL process. First, outside, inside, and last. These first will multiply to 5n squared. Okay? The next thing that we need to do is look for two numbers that multiply to make negative 2. Okay, now there's two ways to do that. There's 1 times negative 2, and then there's negative 1 times 2. And that tells me that these two spots are either going to be 1 and negative 2, or negative 1 and 2. Okay, and that will give me last. So when I multiply these last ones, it multiplies to negative 2. Okay, so let's try plus 1 and minus 2. And what we need to do is check outside and inside and see if they add up to negative 9. So we have 5n times negative 2, so that's outside. So that is negative 10. And we have 1 times n, that's 1n, so we have negative 10n. Plus 1n, and that is negative 9n, so this is our factored form. Now, what if we had guessed the other way first? We would have 3 times 5n minus 1 times n plus 2, and we know that our first still multiply to 5n squared, and our last still multiply to 2, but what about outside and inside? I have 10 and negative 1, and that makes positive 9, but I needed negative 9. So I would have found that that one did not work. Okay, now we're going to practice 4 more. When we get to the last one, there will be a new twist. So make sure you stay here long enough to watch that one. Okay, so here we have 4n squared minus 15n minus 25. There is no greatest common factor other than 1, so there's nothing I can pull out like I pulled out this 3 here. So when I factor, I'm going to have, well, I've got a couple options. I could have 4n and n, and we'll try that, and if nothing else works, then it's going to be 2n and 2n, because those are the two ways to make 4. Okay, so we need to be able to multiply to make negative 25. Okay, now the ways we can do that are 1 and negative 25, negative 1 and 25, and then there's 5 and negative 5, or of course I could switch those to negative 5 and 5. Okay, but I'm going to need them to give me an outside and inside that make negative 15. So maybe instead of trying both of these and then 5, negative 5, or negative 5, 5, maybe we could just try to figure out ways to make numbers add up to negative 15. Maybe if we had a positive 20 and a or a negative 20 and a positive 5, that might work. So to get a negative 20 here, I could try a negative 5, which means I would have to put a positive 5 here. So let's see if that works. So I've got my outsides, 4n and n is 4n squared. I'm sorry, that's the first. The last, negative 5 times 5 is negative 25. But then outside is negative 20n plus 5n, and that makes negative 15n. So this factored form will work. Okay, so in number 13, and we're just going to keep going down this left column here, I'm either going to have 4n and n, or 2n and 2n. So let's try 4n and n. And the number we need to multiply to is 4. And the ways we can do that are 1 and 4, or 2 and 2. Okay, but they are going to have to add up, the outside and inside, to a negative. But remember, when we're multiplying to a positive, we could also multiply two negatives. And if we're going to add up to a negative, there's a pretty solid chance we're really going to want negative 1 and negative 4, or negative 2 and negative 2. Okay, so ways that we can use the numbers we have here to add up to negative 17 when we do our outside and inside. Maybe we could have a negative 16 and a negative 1. So if I use the negative 1 and negative 4 for my outside, I could do a negative 4 here and have negative 16. And I could do a negative 1 here, and that gives me negative 1. Negative 16n and negative 1n makes negative 17n. So let's check our first and last. 4n times n is 4n squared. Negative 1 times negative 4 is positive 4. Okay, we'll go down to number 15. Ways that I can make 6x squared. I could have a 6x and x, and if I find nothing that works, maybe it will be a 2x and a 3x. But let's try 6x and x. And we need to multiply to 6, so ways to multiply to 6. We've got 2 times 3, we've got 1 times 6. Okay, so those are my options to put here, and we're adding outside and inside to a positive, so they're probably going to be positive. We need them to add up to 37, so maybe with a 6, I could get a 36 here, and then a 1x. So if I put plus 1 and plus 6, my outsides are 36x, my insides are 1x, and 36x and 1x makes 37x. So there is my factored form. And then number 17. So we've got 6n and n. And if 6n times 1n doesn't give me anything that works, then maybe it's a 2n and a 3n. So I need to multiply two numbers to make negative 6. So that's 1 and negative 6, or negative 1 and 6, or 2 and negative 3, or negative 2 and 3. Okay, and I need them to add up then to 5, my outside and inside. Okay, so how about if I put plus 1 and a minus 6? So I'll just try this first pairing, and I get negative 36 plus 1. Well, that's not going to work. Okay, so what if I try again with negative 1 and positive 6? Then I get 36 minus 1. That's not going to work. Okay, so how about 2 and negative 3? So 6n plus 2 and n minus 3. And then I get negative 18 plus 2. That's negative 16, not 5. So that didn't work. Okay, how about 6n minus 2 and n plus 3? Okay, so then my outside is 18n. and then minus 2n, that's 16n. That didn't work. So 6n and 1n did not work. So let's try something with 2n and 3n. Okay, so 2n times 3n is 6n squared. Okay, now how can we make this add up to 5? Maybe if we had a 9 minus 4. I think we can do a 9 minus 4 using this pair right here. So maybe not this pair. How about this pair? This might give me a 9 minus 4. Okay, so I can do plus 3 here and a minus 2 here, and I get 2n times negative 2, that's negative 4n, and 3 times 3 is positive 9. So there's 9n minus 4n, and that is 5n. This is my factored form. So that is how you factor trinomials by guess and check.